We had a nice caucus. We're sorry we had to cancel the 9:30 or postpone it. We weren't sure exactly where we were going to land with the caucus. But I think the sentiment is that we will go back to the bill that was agreed upon last week with the House, Senate, and Governor's office. So you'll see some actions on the floor to get us kind of back to where we were. And then we'll send that back up to the state Senate separately, and then run the implementer tonight separately as well, with some additional changes as well to that. That's kind of where we are. Jason, I don't have anything you want to add, but it was a productive caucus, and I think we felt there was broad support and broad consensus on the approach we're going to take today.
Okay, we'll get to some quick questions. We probably have only about 10 minutes. Christine Stewart, News Junkie.
Tell me about the caucus regarding the amendment to the cannabis bill.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure that anyone on the merits, there was some conversation on the merits, and I would certainly defer to the majority leader who again, led our caucus in these difficult negotiations. But when the governor says he's going to veto it, I think that was sort of that was the end of the conversation for a lot of people, which is we had a deal last week. Let's honor that. We know it had the votes in the House and Senate, and the governor would sign it. And I think that was really what was the driving factor behind the decision. Jason?
Yeah, obviously though, that was this issue of the definition of an equity applicant, and including a provision that the person's arrested or a certain family member is arrested. It was something that I supported. Obviously, it was in the judiciary bill that was reported out of committee, and in the course of negotiations with the governor's office, that was something that we compromised on and ended up with the definition that eventually ended up in the bill that was voted by the Senate. Certainly, there's still a desire on the part of some of my colleagues to include that definition, but we want to go back and live up to the deal that we had with the governor when we originally came to that agreement, and that's where we're moving back to.
Yeah, and the other thing too I'd point out is, some have said, well, would you call the governor's bluff, right? That might be a question. I mean, that's not really my personality nor Jason's, and I would take someone at their word if they say they're going to veto something. But we also lost people on the bill who felt that one of the reasons they were willing to get behind it is we had finally gotten there, right, with a comprehensive package and a comprehensive deal. The loss of that comprehensive deal may have swayed some people to vote the other way too. So you know what I mean? You lose votes on that end too.
Wasn't it the House though who pushed for these changes?
There was a House member or two who pushed for the changes. I wouldn't suggest it's the House.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Paul Hughes, Waterbury Republican.
Hey, Paul. Did we lose Paul?
No, you didn't lose me, but what are the changes to the implementer bill?
One of the sections that will come out is the data privacy section that had not been worked out entirely in the committee process. And again, it's not meant to be disrespectful to anybody. It just our caucus wasn't there yet, and we're working through maybe a couple other minor tweaks as well. We'll see.
And what you guys have to say to senators who are now going to have to vote for a third time on a legalization bill? Do they have any reason to be perturbed at their House colleagues?
Probably. That's this time of year, but it was not situations that I think we could have solved for. I mean, the first instance, we got the bill Tuesday. Did I think we'd have a filibuster of 18 hours? No, but we did. And then, last night, again, on the amendment anyway, I wasn't consulted on it and didn't have a chance to vote count it. So when you take that action, you do run the risk that our caucus would respond or the governor might respond, and that's what happened. So I would say it's interceding unfortunate events that occurred, but I can understand their frustration. And I assure you, I feel poorly that this is going to happen for a third time for them, yes.
Okay, thanks very much.
Yeah.
Ken Dixon, Hearst Media.
Feel badly, not poorly. Sorry. Yeah.
Jason, so how do you, we've been covering the House and Senate for a while up here, and we can't remember an amendment showing up in the middle of a debate out of the blue. How do you understand that, the genesis of that last night?
Yeah, no, listen, I think there's a desire on proponents of this to get this done and to get this done in certain ways. And, I think there was, I think the Senate acted in a way and that they thought was in the best interest of the bill to make sure that there would be something that could pass there and pass down here. And it's just it's an instance in which we just don't agree with that decision that was made in kind of the heat of the moment.
my last question. Is there an agreement on the length of the debate here? Order breakfast?
No, I think the weather is probably the biggest mitigating factor. Don't know that people want to spend all day here, but
Yeah,
we're all night.
and I talked to the minority leader, and I think, I don't think it'll be a crazy debate, but do I think that the fact that we were able to resolve last Tuesday and Wednesday in an amicable fashion may help a little bit? I do.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, maybe time for a couple more. Mark Paz from the Connecticut Mirror.
Hey, and Larry, can I apologize I am not grimacing at your questions. I have a little bit of a shoulder issue right now. It's okay, but please note the grimaces are not frustration with you. So,
Well, there's a lot on your shoulders, so.
well, the right one in particular, Orange Theory, they won that round last week. So we'll continue to take medicine.
Paz.
Jason, you and Gary Winfield led the working group that produced the bill, and the bill that the speaker just characterized as agreed upon by all the parties, including the governor. So how do you rationalize what happened yesterday, where the co-leader of the working group, Senator Winfield, to meet the concerns of one or more House members, broke the deal?
Yeah, how do I characterize that?
What does it say about the condition of your caucus and the fragility of the votes for this?
Yeah, I think it confirms what we knew when we began this legislative session, that there was going to be a lot of emotion on this bill. There was going to be a lot of ideas about this bill, and that the vote count was always going to be very, very close. Senator Winfield and I have spoken. We remain friends. We remain trusted colleagues. Sometimes you make decision that you think is in the best interest of something, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I think we're ready to continue to move forward and get, adult use cannabis legalized here in Connecticut.
Given the impact that this bill will have on so many people, it will be expunging criminal records. It will help people avoid criminal records in the future. In the end, was there too much attention paid to the question of who's going to profit from this? Who's going to get a license?
Yeah, no, listen, I think it's less about profit and sharing that a broad spectrum of people can participate in a new marketplace, given the history of illegal cannabis in this country and in this state. I know people want to make it about the money. I'm not going to say it's not about the money, because there is money to be made here, right? But, the interest in legalizing adult use cannabis, there's lots of reasons why people want to move in that direction. Certainly money is just one of them. I wouldn't say there was too much attention paid on equity, because we wanted to make sure that we did this in the right way so that we didn't repeat the mistakes of the past and the mistakes that have been made in other states. But that's where we are right now. And I think people remain focused on getting an adult use bill passed.
Okay, real quick, you're going to strip the language with an amendment to the bill. Is that the approach today, or you're going to do something more creative?
You're muted, Matt.
You could have just answered it. We're going to reject Senate A and Senate B, and then send the bill up that was inserted.
Thank you.
With one small amendment, yeah.
Okay, Susan Raff on the iPad, Channel 3.
I had a couple of questions.
One, please.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, Susan, we hear you.
Sorry. I may be wrong, but I can't imagine that the few House members who put forth this amendment wanted, as the governor would call it, wealthy people in the suburbs to benefit. Do you think that it was poorly worded, that the language was the issue, or do you think that what came out?
Yeah, no, I think the understanding in terms of, there was a misunderstanding in terms of what the impact would be. I think there are some people who believe that arrest is the defining variable in terms to determine equity. So I think the way it was written was largely matching the goals of the proponents of that amendment. But I also think that, it wasn't totally dry. When you're in a situation like that where you're moving very quickly, obviously some mistakes can happen. And I think, the breadth of it was more than what I think people expected.
And also, I don't think our caucus, and I said at the beginning, I think it's important to reiterate, I don't think the debate really hinged on the amendment. The amendment could have been wonderful or poor in your mind, or it could have been, I don't think it was, when the governor said I'm going to veto the bill, I think that was what made everybody say, well, that's a game changer. And so we spent less time maybe on the amendment and more time on the reality of the situation. It's hard sometimes to to step back, on both sides, right? In leadership, our job is to facilitate resolutions and pass legislation. And I remember being a rank and file member. I remember being a chair of a committee, and your passions are right on the issue because you've been spending a lot of time on it. And so we try our best not to be too removed from those passions, but also explain to the caucus the reality of where we are and lay out situations. We laid out different scenarios, and the overwhelming majority said, it's been 8 years. We had a deal, let's pass that bill. But it's not casting aspersions on anyone's motives or attempts by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I actually support what was intended by that amendment. I mean, I was clear about that when we inserted that language into the Judish bill, right? That I think it's appropriate to consider someone's criminal history in terms of defining an equity applicant. It's just in the course of negotiations, that was a concession that was made, and we need to stick to that.
Yeah, but do I think that you should get a leg up because you got pinched for marijuana at 19 at Wesleyan? No, I don't.
But is there a point where someone wants so much in a bill that they're willing to risk things falling apart? And the other question really, right? I mean, you can always go back at some point and change things. But can you just answer that briefly? Because I just had one more follow-up. I'm sorry.
We don't have time, but go ahead. We'll answer this one.
Yes, there's always the potential that somebody wants too much, right? This is the kind of bill that shouldn't belong to any individual legislator, right? The ramifications of this bill are too large that no one legislator should be taking ownership over it. This is a caucus position, I think. This is a party position for us, and it's something that's in the best interest of the state of Connecticut, and not me as majority leader or anybody else as an individual member of the caucus.
Are you
We
worried
have to
about?
move. Jody Latina, Channel 8.
Can you explain what the one amendment, that small amendment will be?
Jason might be able to. Stastrom would know it. What was it? I don't. We'll get it to you. It's small. I promise. I promise.
Okay, final question. Hugh McQuaid, News Junkie.
Hey, thanks, Larry. Real quick, there was some other stuff in that amendment too, right? Like THC labels. They were going to do away with the study on homegrown, that kind of thing. Is any of that stuff surviving, or is the whole amendment in the garbage?
Jason, now you're on mute.
Those things will continue to be in the bill.
Yeah, and you know what? Hugh, I got it, Jody. The amendment, House A, will ban legislators for 2 years from working in the marijuana industry or something like that. Yes, that's what it is. And that was part of Senate A or Senate B, and so we took it from that.
So you're just removing the social equity applicant portion of what the Senate did
The
last time.
portion the governor said he would veto the bill over, yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.